Hello everybody and welcome. In this video, what we're going to be going over is the stock market dashboard that I created in Microsoft Excel. Now, some of you might be thinking, why would you even create a stock market dashboard in Excel, right? They're available online. You could go on Yahoo Finance, CNBC, there's all different kinds of websites. So two main reasons why I decided to build one in Excel. Number one, I wanted something tailor-made for me, exactly the way I want to see it, and I'll show you the way I built it up so that you could build it for yourself. And the second reason is I had this idea in my mind in what it could look like, so I kind of wanted the challenge to put it together. So with all that being said, let's get right into it. So here you can see on my screen, I have my dashboard. The first thing to call out is that everything is driven by the cell R3. So in cell R3, I could go in here. It's defaulted to Apple, but I could change it to another corporation. So let's say another large corporation, Coca-Cola, stock symbol is KO. I could hit enter. So let's just wait for that to update. You could see all the charts are updating, all the data is updating, right? Now, you're not just limited to companies, you're not just limited to stocks. You could also look at ETFs, for example, anything that's attached to the stock exchange, right? So let's type in VOO, which is a popular S&P 500 ETF. I'm gonna hit enter there. So one thing to call out for ETFs is that there's certain information that are just not applicable, right? Like year incorporated, the number of employees, that's not applicable to an ETF. So that kind of information you're not going to get. So for the purpose of this video, let's just use Apple as our example. So I'm going to type in AAPL again. Now, when I do that this time, you're going to notice that there's going to be a question mark that pops up. So you can see that question mark. The reason why this question mark comes up is because AAPL is listed on a few stock exchange, right? So we're just going to select the one we want, the NASDAQ stock market, and I'm going to select that one. So now you can see that this updates, right? Now we're back to where we began with Apple. Now I'm just going to go through the actual dashboard. I'm going to split it up into three components. The first part is the left panel. So you can see here, we have the name, exchange, industry, headquarters, the ticker symbol, the price, the after hours price, and then the company description, right? Now, one thing that you'll notice is that all these are linking to R3. So this cell R3 over here. So one thing to call out is that I've converted this cell into a stock. So that's one thing that you need to do to get this information. So let me go into data here and you can see this stocks, right? So if you click on any cell with this stock icon, you could read it. It says convert cells with company names or ticker symbols like Microsoft to get current stock info, price, exchange, and more, right? So once we do that, let me show you how I get some of the information in here. If I click equals and I go on to R3, you can see now this drop down menu appears. It wouldn't appear if I didn't convert cell R3 into a stock. So now I could come here, I could select name and I could hit enter, right? So I'm just reproducing what was already there, right? I'll give you one more example for stock price. Again, if I select R3, right? And I'm not just limited to what I've actually selected here. You could select anything from this drop down menu. So I'm going to go here, I'm going to select price, and I'm going to hit enter, right? So that's the left-hand portion of the dashboard. Now, let's look at the top portion of the dashboard. You can see the last 10 years of returns, right? That's one thing I like to look at when evaluating a stock, to see how it's been performing year over year, to see, like, the gains and losses, right? And the data for this is all coming in the stock data tab, which we're going to go over next. Now, the right-hand side, the top right side, I should say, of the dashboard, you could see here you have other information such as previous close, open price, day range, 52 weeks. Down here you have beta and PE ratio. Again, this is all linking to cell R3 and it's giving you these options because we converted cell R3 into a stock. So again, I'll just give you one more example how to do this. Nothing has changed since the left-sided panel, right? So I'm going to click PE here, and it's going to give me the PE ratio, right? And then the bottom portion of the dashboard, this is where you have your different time horizons, and we're looking at the variance analysis, right? So we have 5, 30, 90, 180 days, year to date, 1, 3, 5, and 10 years. And this data is all coming from the graph data tab, which we're going to go over in a bit. All right, everybody. In the next part of this video, what we're going to go over is the stock data tab. So again, I'm going to split this up into 3 parts. The first set of data we're going to look at is in the top left corner. So you can see here, I have the stock symbol. So that's coming right from the dashboard. Nothing really crazy there. I could actually type in AAPL, but I have it linking anyways. Then I have my start date. So I want to get my time horizon, right? So if I'm going back the next 10 years, my start date, I'm using the today function, and I'm subtracting by 11 years plus 2 for the 2 leap years. Now, some of you might be asking, why are you adding 11 years, right? You can see 365 times 11. The reason why I'm adding 11 years is because I want the year-end closing price. So depending on what day I am in the year, if I'm only going back 10 years, I might not get the year-end close price. But if I go back 11 years, then I'll always have the year-end price in the 10th year, right? So here you can see I have the end date. The end date is just today. And then the current date is the last trading date that I have in the stock history function. So that's the next part of this video that we're going to be going over. In column D to H, you could see I have this stock history for Apple, right? So this might look like regular columns with regular data, but this is all coming from a formula, right? So the amount of rows are not fixed. It's variable depending on your criteria. So let me show you how to do the stock history function. I'll reproduce it here. So I'm going to go equals stock history, open bracket. Now it's asking you for the stock price. So we already have that in cell B1. So I'm going to take that. And then it's asking you for the start date. So we have that in cell B2. So I'm going to lock that. Now it's asking for the end date. We have that in cell B3. I'm going to lock that. Now, the next thing it's going to ask you for is your intervals. Do you want 0 for daily, weekly, or monthly? We want daily in this case, so I'm going to pick 0. Now, do you want a header or no header? In this example, I want a header, so I'm going to select 1. And then here, I have the choice to select whatever data I want. So I want the date, so I'm going to hit 0. Then I want the open, so I'm going to select 2, 3 for high, 4 for low, and then 1 for close. And then I'm going to close the bracket, hit enter. And you could see it basically reproduced what I already had. It's exactly what I had before, but I'm just showing you how to do that. Now, that's the second part of this tab. Now, the third part, what we're going to look at is the formulas that are here in gray. These are the manual formulas that I did. And I'll hover over each of them so that you can see what I'm doing, right? So in this column I, I'm looking for the year. So for each individual date that I have listed under column D, I'm just selecting the year. In column J, I'm doing the same thing, but instead of year, I'm looking at month. And then in column K, whatever year I'm in, I want to know how many days are year to date within that year. So if that sounds complicated, might sound complicated, but really isn't, right? So I'm recording this on January the 30th, right? 2022. So you can see here at the bottom, the year to date, every date with 2025. We have 18 days in total. Now, the next few columns, it's all the same formula. So 5, 30, 90, 180 days, and then I have 1, 3, 5, and 10 years. So let me hover over. You can see the formula that I have. The only part in each of these columns where the formula changes is what I just highlighted there, right? So for 5 day, I'm obviously looking for 5 days, right? And then if I scroll over 30 days, you'll have 30, 90 days, 90, 180. For 1 year, you'll have 365. For 3 years, 365 times 3. 5 years, 365 times 5 plus 1 for a leap year. 10 years, 365 times 10 plus 2 for 2 leap years. Now, one thing to call out for anybody who is not really familiar with the stock market, 30 days doesn't necessarily mean it's going to return you 30 days. What this does, it looks from today's date, it goes back 30 days, and it only returns the trading days in the last 30 days, right? So weekends and statutory holidays do not count. So let me show you an example. Let's look under column M for 30 days, right? So if you look at the last 30 days, the number of trading days you have are 19, right? So that's just something to keep in mind. And then the last two columns that I have here, column T and U, that's for the year end as well as the year number, right? So let's start in column T, the year end. So basically the formula, what it's looking at, it's just looking row over row to see when the year changes. Because when the year changes, the prior date, the last year of that particular year, that must be the year end close for that year. So let me show you what I'm talking about. If I scroll all the way down to the bottom, you could see here on row 2749, I have 2024 that shows up. So it shows up because there's a change from row 2749 to 2750. We go from 2024 to 2025. So that must mean that on row 2749, that is our last trading day of 2024. So that is our year-end price, right? So that's the formula to get that. Now, for the year number, I'm using the formula that you see in my formula bar there. It's just going in inverse order. So it's looking at the last year in my data set, and it's ranking that as year number 1. So 2024 is the most recent year. So that's going to be year 1. 2023 will be year 2. 22 will be year 3, so on and so forth. And then all this feeds, if I go back to the dashboard, all this feeds here to the last 10 years of returns. And again, I'm just going to hover over these, right? So you could see the formulas that I'm using to pick up the year, to pick up the open price for that particular year, to pick up the closing price for that particular year, the gain and loss in dollars, and the gain and loss in percentage. Hey guys, before we get to the graph data, I just wanted to let you know that if you're liking what you see in this video and you want to go from a zero to a hero in Microsoft Excel, assuming that you're a beginner, I have the course for you. In the description below, I have the link. I have over 13 chapters, over 100 different videos that you could watch at your own convenience, right? So they're individually bookmarked. Let's say, for example, you want to go over VLOOKUP chapter or pivot table chapters. I have individual chapters for basically every function that you could think of in Microsoft Excel. So again, if you want to go from zero to hero in Microsoft Excel and take your Excel game to the next level, the link is in the description below. One other thing I wanted to mention too, if you like the Excel file that I'm using in this video, I also have that available in my Etsy store. Now, let's get back into it. All right, so let's get into this graph data. So all of the data that you see here in the graph data tab, it's actually all coming from stock data, and I'll show you how I get it in here. So first, let's have a quick summary of what we have here. We have 5, 30, 90, 180 days, year to date, 1, 3, 5, and 10 years, right? So you have all these different data sets, right? Now, the methodology for all of these are the same. So I'm not gonna bother going over each of these because if I go over one, it's as if I went over all of them. So let's focus on 30 day. Let's use that as an example. First place we're gonna start is in the date column. So you can see here in the formula, I have the filter formula, right? So the filter formula, it's a lot like the stock history formula that we just went over, in the sense that, you know, it's not a fixed set of rows. It all depends on your criteria. And let me reproduce this for you just to show you how I did it, right? So if I want to bring in all the days, all the trading days for the last 30 days, right? I'm going to click here. I'm going to type equals filter. Right? Now it's asking you for an array. So what do you want it to return? And what you want it to return is this column D from the stock data tab for the date, right? So I'm going to lock that. And then it's asking you to include. So what's your criteria? Well, this under 30 days, I'm going to lock that. Whatever is equal to Y for yes. And then comma, if it's empty, I just want to leave it blank. So I'm going to hit enter. And you could see that it I just reproduce what I had there before. So that's how to use the filter formula. Now, the closing price, it's the exact same thing. I'm using the filter formula again. The only thing that changes is the first criteria. Instead of taking column D for the date in the stock data tab, I'm taking column H for the close price. Right? So now let's move up here to the begin date. The begin date, that's very simple. You're just looking at cell G8 because you know that's always going to be your beginning date for that particular time horizon. Now, for the close, take a look at the formula there. That's the formula that you would use to pick up the last price. So the last price in the 30 days, right, is the 239.36, right? And then below that on row 5, you have your variance. So $11.06 negative is your variance, and negative 4.4%. Now let's take a quick look at the increase and decrease columns. So in this increase column here, you can see the formula. What it's really looking at is that column G, right? So if it's a negative number, it's going to return an NA because it's not applicable, right? Here we're only looking for a 30-day variance that increases, but in this case it decreases, so it returns an NA, right? If you look at the decrease formula, it's slightly different from the increase. The only difference is that it's looking at cell G5 and it's looking at if it's decreased, right? So in this case it has. So we're going to show it under this decrease column. So you're going to ask, well, why? Why are you showing the stock price in the decrease column and not the increase column? What difference does that make? The reason for that is for the graphs that I have on the dashboard. If it's increasing, I want to show it in green. And if it's decreasing, I want to show it in red, right? So I'll show you what I mean. For the 30 days, you could see here that it's decreasing by $11.06, right? So it's showing in red. So if I right click here and I select data, you could see here that it's selecting the data right from the graph data tab. Now that we've gone over the graph data, there's one more thing I want to show you. So when you're evaluating a stock, whether you want to purchase it or not, when you're making your investment decisions, one key thing to look at are the financials of the company, right? So you're going to want to look at income statement, balance sheet, statement of cash flow, and different ratios that are going to, add value to your analysis, right? There's one quick way to get that in Microsoft Excel. Now, one thing to mention, for all this stock history data that I've been using, as well as what I'm about to show you, you need a Microsoft 365 license. So if you don't have one, you might not want to download this file because it will not work for you. You must have a Microsoft 365 subscription. So that's just one thing I wanted to call out. But let me show you a quick and easy way to get all this financial information with the click of a button. So up here, you're going to have to get the Wisesheets add-in. So I'm going to click on Wisesheets here. Now up here, it's asking me to select the stock. So in this case, I'm looking at Apple. So I'm going to select Apple. Then it's going to ask, do you want standardized financials or as reported in SEC financials? I like standardized, so that's what I'm going to pick. And then data type, either annual or quarter. I want annual. So now all I got to do is click Get Data, and you're going to see it's going to create different tabs for each of these items, right? So for the income statement, balance sheet, statement of cash flow, and then key ratios, it's going to have, there's about 5 tabs that are going to auto-populate. So let's wait for them to populate here. Now you can see it's populated all the financials that we're going to need. And you could see it gives you the last 10 years, right? So on the income statement, for example, right, it starts in 2024 and goes all the way back to actually 2006, so longer than 10 years, right? So you have that for the income statement, the balance sheet, cash flow, key metrics, financial growth, right? So basically at the end of this, you have all the information you need to make your investment decisions, right? So this video is not to help you, give you an investment advice. Investment advice is very personal, right? It depends on you, your risk tolerance, your time horizon, and several other factors. But this video is really just to give you this tool so that it could help you to make your financial decisions. All right, everyone. That concludes the video for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. And as always, keep fit and have fun.